3. I even told him this before we moved in together. I was like, listen, like, it doesn't happen that often, to be honest. You know, I've been able to like take care of it, but I do have an issue with, you know, sometimes grabbing a blanket and a pillow and going to sleep in a bathtub. And, you know, after I tell him this, he turns and looks at me and he's like, you know, I get that your dad died and that you went through some fucked up shit, but you can't use that excuse for the rest of your life. Do you think the next person is going to give a fuck what you went through? No, they aren't. And you know what? Because nobody else will tell you, I'll be the first one to. So stop using it as a fucking excuse for your behavior. So I apologize again because I don't know what else to do at this point. And he's like, yeah, you're not coming in the house tonight. He's like, you're either going to sign yourself into a mental hospital tonight or you're gonna pack your shit and leave. So obviously I don't want to lose him. So I turn the car around and I go and drive myself to a fucking mental hospital. You know, went through the motions, talked to a therapist. They told me everything that I already knew they were going to say. You know, 1, I need to be back on my meds. 2, I need to be going to therapy regularly. Pretty much everything that I was doing before this to cope with what the fuck I went through. So then I had Shane come in and I had him listen to what the therapist had to say. So, you know, she's sitting there and she's telling him all this stuff and he's like, yeah, you know, I completely understand, you know. I don't know why she quit taking her meds in the first place. I knew this wasn't going to be well for her. So we get into the car and he's like, well, that was like a fucking waste of time. He's like, first of all, you don't need fucking medicine. What you need is to get over the fucking bullshit. And number 2, what, you want to go back to therapy so that way you can cheat on me? He's like, let me guess, you talked the therapist into saying that you need therapy. And I'm like, oh my god. Oh my god. Who raised you? Anyways, you know, he's like, the therapist should have told you to grow the fuck up instead of enabling your bullshit. He's like, my dad used to beat my mom. You don't see me going around and using that as an excuse to be an asshole to everybody and act out and play the fucking victim all the time. He's like, you've had 14 years to process this. People are actually going through that shit right now. And I'm like, well, what does that have to do with anything? Like, what? Yeah. So time goes on. I'm really doing my best to make him happy and be everything that he wants me to be. So, you know, I sign up for virtual therapy sessions and I made these for whenever he was home so that way, you know, he would be able to listen in. And I even made it with a female, but when in reality I realized, this is just like a side note, it doesn't help if your abuser is in the room listening to you talk to your therapist about things, because then you can't be really honest about what's going on. So what the fuck is the point of paying $90 for these sessions whenever I can't even tell her how I really feel? Anyways, so, you know, I wasn't allowed to go out of the house by myself, so I would have my mom come and drop my meds off to me. And, you know, she's known something hasn't been right, you know, and I feel really bad because it hurts my mom so much to see me going through something like this, even though she really doesn't even know what I'm going through, because of what I've already been put through in my life. Like, she literally would tell me about how the trauma that I went through when I was younger, not even finding my dad, but the way that my dad would treat me when I was younger is the reason why I think it's okay for me to be treated like this right now. But I would just kind of take everything that she said with a grain of salt, mainly because I wasn't interested in listening what she had to say. I was more interested in listening to what Shane had to say, which I know sounds so fucked, but it's like nobody else's opinion to me mattered. So yeah. Anyways, so, you know, I was cleaning the house every day. I was washing his clothes every morning, every night. Like, as soon as he would come home and take off his work clothes, they were going in the washer. Dinner was already on the table. His favorite TV show was already, you know, ready for him to press play on the TV. And the one night while we're sitting down and we're eating dinner, I tell him, I'm like, yeah, I want to go back to school. And he just starts laughing and he's like, what for? And I'm like, I don't know, like, I really just want to go to college. Anyway, so he's like, you barely made it through high school. What the fuck is going to make you think that you can actually finish college? You never finish anything that you start. And I was like, okay, well then, like, I want to get a job. I want to do something with myself. And he's like, that's not what you want. Do you want me to tell you what you really want? And I'm like, go for it, bud. Go for it, because at this point I don't have a fucking brain of my own. He's like, the whole reason why we had problems before was because you like to have guys' attention. You want to be able to go out again and be able to have an excuse called work to go and flirt with a bunch of fucking random guys. And he was like, you know, you can do whatever you want, but I'm not sticking around for the bullshit. He was like, you can just go home and live with your mom and Laren, because God knows they're not going to make you get a fucking job, so you can go freeload off of them and go as many guys as you want. After that, I just kept quiet and I was like, you know what? I don't need to get a job. He was like, sometimes, like, I feel like I have to think for you. Clearly, right? Well, a few weeks later, I had applied to college without him knowing. And I told Chelsea about it because I knew that she would be extremely proud of me, because she was literally telling me 24/7, you need to go to college, you need to find something for yourself, you know, you need to find your calling in life. And the one day while I am vacuuming the living room, Shane is sitting on the couch, looking down at the ground with his elbows on his knees, and all of a sudden he jumps up and flips the fucking coffee table the glass coffee table, you know, because he has to make a scene. And he walks up to me and he's literally nose to nose with me like this. And he goes, "You can have fun being single, bitch." And yeah. And then he proceeds to run back and forth from the room to the front door to throw my shit out. So I'm like frantically pacing back and forth trying to follow him, and I'm like, what's wrong? We were just fine. Like, what happened? Because I literally had no reason as to why he could be mad was popping up into my mind. And then he goes, "Chelsea told me that you applied to college. You didn't even fucking tell me. You're sneaky. And I don't fucking need that shit around me." So I had my mom come and pick me up because when I went outside to grab my shit out of the street and not the yard, he locked me outside. And that night, I decided to give Chelsea a call. I was like, why do you have to tell Shane every single fucking thing that I do? I was like, do you not hear me when I tell you the things that he does and says to me? And she goes, "What do you mean? You and Shane are in a relationship and you need to be honest with him." And I was like, do you not hear me anytime that I tell you how he is with me? And she goes, "Well, to be honest, Shane talks to us a lot and he tells us a lot more than you do. And like, I thought I was your best friend. Like, you didn't even tell me that you were sleepwalking again. I also didn't know that you stopped taking your meds and you had to take him to the hospital because you bit him and then beat him over the head with a fucking glass bottle. Like, I feel like I don't even know you anymore." So then I tell her that the reason why I stopped going to therapy was because he had a problem with it. I told her the reason why I stopped taking my meds was because he wouldn't let me go to therapy. The reason why he got a glass cup, not bottle, was because he literally woke me up out of my sleep while I was sleepwalking by trying to physically restrain me and scream at me. She's like, "Well, to be honest, that all sounds like your fault. I don't know why you stayed. And I'm not gonna lie, I think I'm done dealing with your bullshit. Shane does a lot for you and all you do is take him for granted." Like, he tells us these things about how, you know, all you do is lay in bed all day while he's at work working his ass off so you two can live in that house and have nice things, and you don't even do any of the housework and you refuse to get a job. And then I'm like, "Chelsea, I literally fucking told you the reason why I applied to college was because I want to get a fucking job. Why would I apply to college if I didn't want to get a fucking job? Like, instead of taking $100,000 and putting it towards an education, you know, I would just go shopping with that money. Why the fuck would I waste money on an education?" She was like, "Okay, then how do you explain the cheating?" I'm like, oh my god. This completely fucking throws me off guard. And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "Nothing. To be honest, you're never gonna tell me the truth anyways. You literally lie for no reason. So I gotta go." So after that, I try getting in contact with Shane and I'm not able to. So I decided at that point that I am going to do me. I got accepted into the school that I wanted to go to, that I applied to, and I want to say that, to be honest, classes actually started immediately because this was literally right before the semester started. So I started taking classes, and a month later, literally 30 days later, I get a text from him saying, "I really miss you. I'm sorry the way that things went down. You're a strong, independent, beautiful woman and you deserve to be treated like one. I really screwed up with this one and I think it's awesome what you're trying to do with your life. You know, I just want to be there and support you, even if it's just as a friend. We've been through so much together. We can't just erase each other out of each other's lives." And I didn't answer him because, don't get me wrong, I started to realize how toxic our relationship was, but I also really loved him. And the only reason why him and I were broken up in the first place is because he blocked me. If he wouldn't have blocked me, I most likely would never have left. So the next day, who do I get a call from? Chelsea. And she's like, "Hey, Shane really wants to talk to you. And I think that you should talk to him, to be honest. Like, he really misses you." And I'm like, "Why? Didn't I cheat and lie and do so many horrible things to him?" And she's like, "Yeah, but you should be lucky that he's taking you back. Not everybody would give somebody who did what you did a second chance." So that's not even the reason why I got back together with him. The reason why I got back together with him was because he kept texting and calling me and leaving me sweet voicemails and stuff like that. So what happens when we get back together? 2 weeks later, it's the same way it was. I drop out of school because he thinks that I'm cheating on him when I go to class. And then he told me I'm a piece of shit for dropping out of school, even though, like I said, he made me because he thought I was screwing not only actually people who were in my class, but my teachers too, my professors. Yeah. So I got to the point where when he starts being abusive, I will take videos and stuff like that because he told Chelsea that I was back to my old ways, and for some reason, everybody believed him over me. But that was pointless anyways because she completely cut me off. I let his and I's relationship ruin the relationship I had with my family. They wanted me to come over for Thanksgiving dinner, and obviously they said that he wasn't welcome. So he saw those messages and he told me that I had to choose between him or my family. So what did I do? Yep, you can already guess. I blocked my whole family. And this was the straw that broke the camel's back, I want to say. So the one night I'm sitting on the couch watching TV. I had just got done doing all the chores in the house, you know, fucking sweeping the ceilings and everything. When he stumbles in, drunk as fuck because he's been at the bar since 4 in the afternoon. It's 10 o'clock at night now, and I'm watching a video on my phone, and there's a guy's voice coming from my phone because there's a guy fucking talking in the video that I'm watching. And you know, he's like fucking falling over while he's putting his shoes on, and he's like, who the fuck are you talking to? And I'm like, I'm watching a video. Well, doesn't even have both shoes off, fucking hobbles over to me, runs over to me, rips my phone out of my hand, and he's like, you think you're slick, huh? Hanging up the phone before I can fucking get over here. And then he gets physical with me. So after that, I locked myself in the bathroom. I called Chelsea. I don't even know why. And I told her what was going on. So she came over with Brandon. And when I hear the knock at the door, I low-key open the bathroom door a little bit and I'm peeking out. And Shane goes and looks out the front window and he looks back at me. And he's like, so this is really how you want to play it? All right, we can play these games. So he opens the door and he's like, oh my God, thank God you guys are here. You guys don't know what a fucking night it's been. I got home 10 minutes ago and she's already starting her bullshit. And then Chelsea's like, okay, like, where is she? And then he's like, she's in the bathroom. So she goes over, comes over to the bathroom, and I am sobbing, telling her what is happening. Like, I can barely get the fucking words out. And she just kind of looks at me like, and then looks over at Brandon. And then Brandon says, Chelsea, come here. So I shut the bathroom door because at this point, I don't know what to do but cry, literally. Just cry. And I can hear him telling them that I hit myself because he caught me cheating and he told me that he was going to leave me. So I started hitting myself to try and make him feel bad. And then I also threatened to call the police and tell them that he hit me. Yeah. So then I hear whispering, and at that point I end up calling the cops because I'm tired of feeling beat down. And I'm tired of no one believing me because I just need that one person to believe me. So the cops get to the house and, you know, Chelsea opens the bathroom door and she's like, listen, Brandon and I are not gonna let Shane get fucking thrown in jail because you wanna act like a fucking psycho. So I'm talking to the cops, I'm telling them what happened. I'm fucking hyperventilating. So then, you know, there's the other officer talking to Chelsea, Brandon, and Shane, and all I can hear is Shane telling them this elaborate story that he made up last minute too. Like, I'm impressed. Like, anyways, and then Brandon and Chelsea are going along with it. They're saying how this isn't the first time that I've acted out like this. You know, they're like, yeah, sometimes she just won't take her meds, and some shit like this happened last time. Shane had to go to the hospital. He had a gash in his head. She bit him. She even had to sign herself into a mental hospital. And they're going on about how I have a bunch of psych issues. So I'm literally screaming at them, and the police are just looking at me like I'm fucking psychotic. And I don't know what they said to the cops because eventually, you know, one of the officers pulled me away from them while they were talking. I ended up getting arrested that night and going to jail. And actually, one of the officers that had been there the day that my mom found me, he bailed me out. Yeah. And I told him what happened. And he was like, I'm really sorry that, you know, nobody knows what you've been through. Nobody is ever gonna understand what you went through. But he ended up getting away with it. You know, I sent Chelsea all the videos that I had of him acting like a fucking psycho. And she was like, what do you want me to do with these? And you know what, like, I didn't know what I wanted her to do with them because you know what, I didn't think I had to send them to her before because I thought that she was my best friend and I could just tell her and she would believe me because, you know, I'm her best friend who she's known since we were like fucking 7 or 8 years old, and she knows what I've been through. I've never lied to her. And she's like, you need to stop. You're literally going to ruin a man's life. Like, I love you so much, but you really need to get some help. Please, this isn't healthy for you. So fast forward 2 years, I'm 23 years old and I am in college and I get a visit from Chelsea at my family's house. And she knocks on the door and I open the door and she's like, hey, like, I've been trying to get a hold of you. I don't know if you changed your number or something, but, and I cut her off. I'm like, no, I blocked you. And she just like looks at me and she's like, well, I just wanted to tell you, I'm so sorry for not believing you. It's just that Brandon would tell me that Shane is not that type of guy who would do any of that stuff. And with Shane telling me about all these situations, everything was just like seeming like it added up. Like, if anything, I feel bad for both of us because we were both manipulated by these men. What? And I just want to like let you know that I broke up with Brandon, which is literally a fucking lie because I heard through the grapevine, aka her mother, who still talks to my mom, he actually broke up with her. Yeah. And my mom knows everything about Chelsea and everything that she didn't do for me. So actually, if my mom found out that Chelsea was at the house, she would have been fucking pissed. And she was gonna be home in like 20 minutes, so I decided to keep things very short and simple for her. I was like, listen, to be honest, I don't even know why I'm wasting time talking to you, but I was like, you threw away years of a friendship for somebody that you barely knew. I was being put through hell and nobody would believe me, not even my best friend, who knew what I was being put through because I would call you and tell you about it. Did he tell you that whenever I was sleepwalking again, he would turn the boiling hot water on me? I didn't have anybody to talk to at that time though. Sure, I could have talked to my mom, but it's not the same. I needed you to be there for me, and you weren't. Before all of this, I had finally got to the point where I was going to therapy once a week. My meds were good. I was fine. And now I go to therapy every single fucking day because of the mental and physical abuse that I thought that I deserved because you and everyone else had painted me to be the bad guy. And you know what? I'm not blaming you because at the end of the day, I decided to stay in that relationship. Just like you said on the phone that one day. But I will blame you for being a bad fucking friend. After that, you know, the waterworks come out and I told her to get the fuck off of my property. So, you know, she left, and then, you know, I kept getting letters in the mail from her. And it wasn't even just her, it was Shane too. He would show up to my school and try to get into the building to talk to me because I had him blocked on everything, and I made sure I didn't go anywhere where I would bump into him. There were a few times where he actually followed me home from school. And the worst was when I went to therapy the one night because I had school during the day, so I would have late appointments, and he had waited outside of my therapist's office. Like, I'm walking out to my car and I see someone crouch down on the other side of the hood of the car, and I knew exactly who it fucking was because, like I said, with the following, the letters, the star 67 calls, I knew it was not safe. So I start running towards the building, and then I hear his footsteps behind me. So I start screaming, and thank God this was on a main fucking road because the cops were literally parked in the back of the parking lot to catch people speeding up and down the road. The only thing that they could really charge him with was like trespassing, I'm pretty sure. And I was able to get a restraining order against him, but we all know how good those work.